Greetings and welcome to the broadcast. I'm your host, and we're doing an Astrolabe advisor here. Going to show you a lot about these astrolabes, 50 or so photographs. Look at the detail of these things, about the size of a silver dollar, some of them. It's just phenomenal, the amount of heavenly or planetary information these things have. We're also going to look a little bit at some of the construction, some paper astrolabes like this one here. This is just one out of a book. You can actually make one out of a paper plate. We'll cover a little bit of that stuff. And then as we get going, I'll show well, you can see for yourself here how the different modules come together. And these modules change a lot throughout history and geographically what nations make them. See how this thing spins like this? You're going to pick up with it pretty quickly. You're going to pick up the gist of this stuff. Uh, Now, what we're going to stay with this thing here, these geared astrolabes, I'm not going to touch. These are the deals. They got a gear for the sun, a gear for the moon, a gear for the planets. No way, baby, that you can. If you want to mess with these, I'm sure there's. I don't know who has one on YouTube, but what we're going to do is take a look about the functions. Now, see these planets down here moving around, superimposed. Sure, there's stuff going on. Anything inscribed on an astrolabe has a lot to do with planetary function, and it's exciting. We're going to have some real specimens here to look at. Also, I'll show you how to take a Starbucks card like this here, make your own kind of a homemade astrolabe, as long as it has a lot of the gold metallic kind of embossing underneath the design. You can tell when it's time to go home, and you don't even need to take your watch to work as long as the sun's out. Now, operating an astrolabe like this, the best way to learn this is to go to TED Talks. That guy's real good. And he's all over the internet. He doesn't go quite into the astrolabes like we're going here, but he's heavy into theory and operation. Now here it just shows you, see how you look through this clear plastic on this wooden astrolabe? I'd like you to get your mind kind of ready just to take a gist or a sensation. When you look at these astrolabes throughout history, try to think of this thing spinning in the background and the sun that comes up when you see it come up. Now I have to say right here, the Muslims or the Mohammedans or Arabs or whatever you want to call them, these guys run the Cadillac of the astrolabes. Forget these guys here like Copernicus and Ptolemy, who, Ptolemy was a great guy. Nothing, we're going to interview a guy here in just a minute or show him. He's been making these by hand for 40 years. He's a world-class construction expert. His work hangs in the finest museums on earth, private the galleries, and he can't even run these things. They say you can do 30, this is the old Ptolemy style, 300 complex functions with an astrolabe, and more if you know. Oh, now see the serpent up here? Oh, there's a serpent's tail. The blue is like a serpent's tail, and all the way to the right is a serpent's head. You're going to see some serpentine on that blue outside ring here from time to time. Well, look at this fantastic work. Now, I really have to compress a lot of information here as fast as I can. Now, the flat Earth model you see on the right, that's how an astrolabe works. The superimposed global thing on the top is just how the planets operate. These things don't work with a spinning globe Earth in a so-called elliptical orbit. No, here's how they work. A flat Earth, a sun that rises and sets, just like you see superimposed here, and the planets, the stars, the sun moving, and you're kind of flat. I'm not saying you have, as you can see here, I'm not saying how you believe the Earth is really flat. I mean, it could be like a dinner plate or something. But if you want to try to factor in a spinning globe Earth with these things and factor in elliptical orbit of Mars and stuff, forget about it. It's way too complex, and it's not intellectually honest from what I'm seeing. Also, you can measure a lot with these things. The height of planets, the height of a building, where the sun's going to come up today, tomorrow, or next year, the tides, the charts, how to pray to Mecca, how to face this, there, and the other, latitude, longitude, and of course, you're going to get into some esoteric things. We'll see a little bit later on. Uh, as we look at look deep inside here in the mechanism, as we go through a whole bunch more astrolabes, we're going to see some differences. Now, the occult, when you look at the astrolabes, you're going to get the occult no matter what. Now, the mildest would be maybe cast a little spell or something before you plant the corn or whatever. And the worst might be going into a trance medium, or channeling spirits, or actual ritualistic spell casting, and even worse. This guy on his arm, see the snake, the serpent there? There's a serpent's head right there in the blue. There's the witching hour thing, I guess, and the tail. I'm not saying this guy's into witchcraft, but there is a lot of occultic imagery You know, not just because he's got one tattooed on here, but throughout history and throughout the specimens. Let's look at the Bible real quick. On the top, the Bible, the word earth is mentioned 936 times. You can see it right here. We go ahead in the center, we can just tap it, and up will come the earth a little bit to get a sense of the size from God's perspective, like a footstool. That will help us to kind of, in our mind's eye, look at the earth. Now, here's guys doing crop circles, trying to contact spirit beings or demon spirits or whatever with these astrolabes. Heavy ritualistic stuff. Here's a modern day CERN halogen collider. See the little Earth down there? I can see a six-pointed star right in the center of this. This was your God particle stuff they were trying to do. It's just been going on forever. The astrolabe has a function. Now, as we look at this thing, if you want to look at the TED Talks, that guy can teach us a lot. Now, on these tattoos, these astrolabe functions are coming in quite a bit. The Earth has basically got to be in the center for it to work right, what we call a geocentric model, and then it just works like a champ. The best way, if you want to, is just cheat and get an app for your iPhone, your iPod, or iPad. Look at the detail here. All these little thorns you see sticking out, sometimes a bent thorn. As these things turn, they track not only planets, but stars and star clusters and bright spots in the planets. It's just amazing. It would take a long time to explain these things. Death, yeah. You see the skeleton in the upper right-hand corner? There's death involved with this stuff. See, there's the skeleton, the death skeleton. There's all kinds of stuff. There's a dark side to the astrolabe. There really is. But that doesn't mean it can't be used, look here in the background, for just navigation purposes and crop purposes. Now here, the Muslims, see how it has the minaret, like the top of the minaret kind of symbol there in the center. Here's some things you can buy and purchase that kind of act like a coin. See how the thumb is held and to hold it, to let it hang? Well, the angelic thing there. Anyway, this minaret, the top of the minarets, like you see the top of the houses of worship of the Muslims, this is right into the planetary function on the astrolabes. Their imams laugh at us about, I've heard one of them talk on a clandestine video. Here's a little thing you put in your coin pocket. It's a special coin, back to like a half astrolabe, just so you can kind of have something. And they laugh at us and talk. They go back thousands of years. We go back a few hundred in the United States and Canada. Now look at the bottom. You see the moon phases on the bottom of this? Here's a plate you can put up in the window and check planetary functions and times of the year, in theory, if I'm calling it right. I mean, there's a lot of come see, come saw. Here's a special watch you can get that will indicate planetary function, astrolabe. Look at the top of this. This could be the top of the United States, the capital of your state, France, whatever you have. All inspired. Now we have to go through some harps here in a little bit. 10-stringed instruments, instrument of 10 strings. If you're going to do a lot of measurements, harmonics come into play later on with advanced astrolabe teachings. This is from the pyramids, also on coins unearthed 1,000 years old, and so have 10-stringed harps, instrument of 10 strings. Let's go to the Bible. Here's the Bible talks to us right here about an instrument of 10 strings. Let's go to one more example right here. Another instrument of 10 strings. We're probably not going to have time to do that, but I wanted to throw that out to you. Now, do you see any kind of elliptical astrolabe imagery here or design in this photograph? Just look at it for a minute. All the things around there, could that be superimposed? Okay, here's a simple harp, sometimes made 10-string harps, just so you can understand that a little bit. How about the so-called space station and the Hadron Collider and God particle? See the imagery here on the right? All this stuff, the astrolabe inspires a lot of design imagery or design language in the earth, as we'll see. Here's something kind of back in the Pharaoh, the pyramids. You can see some elements there. I'm still working on that. Here's one, March, April, May, June, kind of just like an American one. This one I want to stay away from. This is a very complex thing. I think it's out of an Asian deal. I couldn't make sense of it, couldn't find much information. But you do see from time to time, you see movable objects. Now, I'm not saying this is an occultist. This might be just an astrolabe aficionado. I don't see the serpent on this one. Now, some guys had to get on their knees like this. They were told, you better get it level down there. You're going to be in big trouble, and do their plotting because they couldn't, the wind was blowing. They couldn't maybe hold it from a string or whatever. Now, see the death imagery on the right, the skull on the right, and then we have a bunch of ink laid on for an astrolabe type function. I'm seeing more and more of this as I did my research. A nation sometimes has this kind of a function, this kind of imagery, astrolabe, and death as well. Well, wouldn't you agree? Now, somewhat similar to like a Burning Man festival, some people want to have massive crop circles like this based on astrolabe functions to channel spirits. Look, there's the devil's head or the dragon's head on this astrolabe. Or an astrolabe can be just neutral like this, used just for navigation and measurement purposes and figuring out the tide. You can get a hybrid like this, half the planets going around and check things. Now here's a red herring. This is the United Nations logo. It's a flat Earth logo, and the look background has an astrolabe function in the back. I purposely put a red herring in. Now look, remember this astrolabe I showed you right here? See how the background is like the flat Earth on the United Nations logo? It dovetails perfectly, and good luck making that work on a spinning globe Earth. Here's the guy right here. This is the world's, I believe he's the world's finest maker of astrolabes, museum quality reproductions. Been doing it for 40 years. The guy knows his shot. Like me, he has finally come around to these uh, Muslim or Islamic or Persian, whatever you want to call them, astrolabes, which, to my mind, stand head and shoulders over anything else that I've seen. I've seen probably 50 more than I'm showing you here. See the flat Earth? Then they try to put the ball Earth right there in. Let's do it one more time. Show the flat Earth how an astrolabe. That's how an astrolabe works. Flat Earth grids. That ball they throw in is just to be politically correct. You don't believe me? Try it sometime. Try to factor in an elliptical orbit in Mars with a flat astrolabe, and then do it on a flat Earth model with the planets moving, what we call geocentric, and you'll see which is the right model without getting to it too much. This guy says, "Hey, I've been doing it forever, and I'm still studying it. Can't really figure it out, and so I don't feel so bad." They say there's 300 functions you can do with an astrolabe, and that even more. Here's a little sneak peek I got of one of the things he was working on, and guy's a little bit closed-mouthed. He doesn't. I guess he doesn't need to have advertising. These clocks, I keep showing them to you because let me show you this clock here. This thing ticks for 20 seconds. It costs thousands and thousands, and then it snaps shut. Look at this now. Watch it. Tick, 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 tick. Watch this thing snap right to left now. See it snap over like that? All this does all day long is give you 20-second snaps on your arm. It costs a ton of money. I don't know what it does. You can see what it's called here. But if anybody knows, give me a note if you would about that 20-second clock, how it relates to an astrolabe or measuring or projections. And again, the astrolabe can be actually used to measure the height of stars, believe it or not. Let's just drink in some of this fantastic craftsmanship. You're not going to see this kind of stuff every day. And the detail, it just goes beyond history, beyond borders. I don't want to sound like a one world order kind of person, but an astrolabe does cut across borders, and there's the haves and the have-nots when it comes to the ability to operate these things. I'll tell you that right now. Now, sadly, let me tell you why the United States and Canada is the laughing stock in the world of astrolabes throughout the earth. Elsewhere on the Craft site, I have the Konark India sundials have been keeping perfect time for 900 years. And here's the Islam thing here. You have a jackass out of the United States that comes out of the blue, says, "Oh, by the way, the Earth is really a spherical ovoid, and there's 12 or 1400 miles." Oh yeah? Oh, it's pear-shaped. Yeah. Okay, who's going to recalibrate all these astrolabes for this horse's ass theory that this guy's proposing out there? Well, you're not. The astrolabe is made one way for a fairly circular planetary thing, and there is no spherical ovoid with astrolabes. There is no pear-shaped Earth with astrolabes. It's a friggin' lie, and it's just a laughing stock among people who use these things, I'm told. I'm not at the level yet where I can actually use these things, but there are those who have. I've seen some stuff from other countries, and it's shameful, the politically correct stuff coming out of the government. Now look at the background. Look at that webbing back there. Put this as certain. Now here's the American one. Okay, I put the pointer goes here, and there's the North Star, and now see the minaret kind of in the center of this. That'll kind of let you know that's an Islamic one. You see it right there, kind of like the top of the prayer tower they have. That's a function of the earth. Now some guys don't. They want to hold it like this to try to hold it level. They don't want to hold it by a string. Okay, guys do what they have to do to try to take their measurements. But the artwork. Now there's a snake there. You see the snake there? I see it. I see his tail on the left. I see his head on the right. Do you see the snake? Okay. Yep, he's there all right. Okay, I just want to drink in a little bit more. We're getting kind of short on time here. Look at the detail. How they could do this without wearing reading glasses is amazing. And 12-year-old kids were taught this at the very beginning. We're told all those things on the outside ring mean something. Now, do you see a flow, a design language, so to speak here? How do you think all these things? Now, I'm going from top to bottom on this one, as I said. So I'm just moving it down with the lens so we can get all the detail. This thing's probably a little over the size of a silver dollar, and exquisite craftsmanship. Here on the very bottom, you get to see these little indicators, and then at the very bottom, there's some more of these icons, I guess you would call it. Oh boy, I tell you, this is exciting stuff to look at. All right, now see how the planetary things in the back on this one's more simplistic? Just absorb this as I'm showing it to you. I don't pretend to understand a lot of this stuff. Now I showed you this one before. I'm putting this one in a second time to compare to the other design language. Now look, here's one made out of paper or out of a book. Rare books. Now see in the upper right hand corner, see that satyr, that guy with the horse's ass, horse's legs, and a man's body? That's actually found in the Bible. Look at the satyr here. He's going to have a little problem here. There's going to be some screaming going on. It's talking about the earth in context, 34 here. I'll give you one more example of the satyr. There he is, the satyr yelling. These biblical insights and the astrolabe, they dovetail perfectly. There's no conflict at all. Here's some guys put the astrolabes out on a little stand. Here's the nerve center I'm working on right now. If you want to download that app on the App Store, you can see a little bit of it yourself. Oh, right here, Rudyard Kipling. This is what he used when he wrote a book about the flat Earth called "The Village That Voted the Earth Was Flat." That's reviewed elsewhere on the McEisencraft site. Him and Roy Rogers and Admiral Zumwalt had kind of a death cult, those three guys. Go ahead and take a look at the McEisencraft site with Rudyard Kipling. It has more on it. Now here it is. Fantastic work out of a book. I hope we get one where we can actually put our hand on the book and move it back and forth and have a little tail on it. Now this shows, there's a mess right here. Now if you get a paper plate and a straw, there's some stuff online. Many people have kits that you can actually order and print these kits on either plasticized paper or cardstock. A lot of work, but you still got to learn how to run this thing and get the right mindset of it, or just look at how planets work. To take a piece of grease pencil on your window and look out at the sun and make one of these things and hang it. There's a lot to be learned here in the United States and Canada. And paper is one way to go, and wood. If you're on, I mean, I don't even have any of these except an app one, because of the fact that it's easy to shoot the farm on it. I believe this is a troll, so to speak, here. I don't think this is a real astrolabe. I think it was put in to advance the ball Earth theory. Now here is an astrolabe that is a lot of paper. Here's one where you got a little bit of coloration going on. That's nice. Here, now look, whenever you see the margins, an hourglass-shaped margin like that on the left, I'll bring up the text right now so you can read a sample of it. You can make out a few of those words in there. But whenever you see hourglass-shaped margins, that's your key that you're into Astrolabe. 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 More color gets involved, and you start thinking about plotting the moon. You can use the moon to tell time with an astrolabe if you know what you're doing. Here's a kind of way to kind of force the ball Earth in, and it causes all kinds of problems with mathematical equations. There's a guy on YouTube that he takes half an hour to do it. Now look at this. That's the way it is, just like that. The sun does the moving, the astrolabe's in the center, and there you are. Stars, yeah, the Bible talks about stars. Also talks about the moon gives its own light. That's also very important. Anyway, those stars, the 11 stars, was Joseph, the kid that had many colors, the coat of many colors in the Bible, and had some trouble. Now here, back to the pyramids. This is the oldest astrolabe function stuff I can find. It all fits together some way or another. And again, I certainly do not pretend to understand it. Let's just drink in some of this as time begins to get short here. And in the background, think about those things turning, about what you see when you look up at the stars. Oh, here's a bad one. Got a gear thing. You pull the handle. We're not having any of this stuff. I don't know how it got in here. Probably important to see. Oh, is this woman an occultist? Is she using an astrolabe to cast a ritual? Is she a witch? Got her hand on something? Or is she just out with an astrolabe? Has a plant there, not harmless, and got a book that's helping her. Who knows with this stuff? I've talked to a lot of people who are into the occult, or into spell casting and channeling. I'm into the sign of the cross and Jesus Christ myself, but had some great conversations. And until you get to the part of actually, oh, look at this thing. Put your hand down here and move that thing back and forth on this book. A priceless treasure. Do you see a snake? Do you see a serpent's head here? I do. Anyway, until these people get to the point where they're actually doing a sacrifice or something like that, or they're hearing voices at night, things go along pretty good for them. And then there's sometimes a price. Now, see this toilet paper? I'm going to show you some design language that's nuts around here, how the astrolabe influences things. Here's the design language of this deal down here, drain. It's got 3 screws. On the right, it's got like a Masonic emblem thing that's been pointing direct due south at the equinox or whatever, or it appears to anyway. How in the world did Astrolabe do that? Next time you're out and about, walking around, look at it. What's this right here? Okay, there's something out here on the street. Let's get a little closer to it. See what could it be. Okay, a little bit of a cult, a little bit of triangle. It's pointing somewhere out there. Yep, sure enough, someone's taking the screws out. They're pointing across the street. Is this where somebody got killed? Right here where they're pointing there? Is this where there's a ritual in that building overnight? Who knows? All kinds of stuff is going on. You wonder where the money comes for all these things. But once you start studying astrolabes, you see the design language of an astrolabe all over the place. Look at this port here. I got a little ink here. It points to this thing here. This thing points to the right, and there you have your so-called ritual. There's a guy on the internet named Fritz Springmeier who does a ton of research on this stuff. And another guy named Rob Skiba. Now look at this right here. There's Dagon, the fish god. I say there's Dagon, the fish god. Others say, no, that's just a little salmon. Well, somebody spent the money for this. And that salmon, you can see the eye, just like the Pope's hat there, Dagon. And over here, you can see just inspired for these little tree grates, kind of look like an astrolabe. I started counting them, thinking if there's 360 of these outside, but I kind of gave up. Okay, look at this Dagon, the fish god, facing exactly right here with this. What's that remind you of? This so-called drain, storm drain, or whatever the kind of drain it is. Well, sure, it looks like that thing I showed you back here from the astrolabe functions on the top of the temples, or the top of Washington, D.C., or state capitals. A lot going on here. A plate, I've showed you that before. I'm not so sure this is astrolabic functions, but they say it is. Okay, if they say it is, it is. Now here's some more stuff. What's going on down here? Okay, was extra money used to put the G font on this thing here, like the Masonic G in their rituals? Who knows? Check with that Fritz Springmeier guy. Now here I'll show you a little trick with this Starbucks card. In the upper left-hand corner is supposed to be the handle. As you look through it here, it's like 3D. You can see the front and the back. You can put some light through that thing. And I'm just going to simulate. I'm sitting by some sun. It's going to be some sunlight coming right through the window, as they say. And then the sun is going to move, and I'm going to move it a little bit to simulate the sun. And this has kind of a gold background in the design. Really grabs the sunlight. And with a little practice, you can tell time with this thing and tell when it's time to get off work. And I'll just show you a little tip here a little bit. You try it sometime. Get something like this, prop it up to the window where the sun hits it. You'll be amazed at how close you can tell time with this with just a little practice. Makes a good parlor trick. Starbucks could probably have a heck of a thing if they made astrolabe cards, but I don't know what useful purpose that might serve. Anyway, I kind of showed you here how to make a sundial, if we can do it here before the trees grow. Here's a reminder for some take-home messages, We've got the moon and everything going together. Now, what do we have here? Yeah, the moon. There's a gender specificity here. Moon gives her light. Someone says, well, that's Old Testament Bible stuff. Okay, let's try New Testament. Here's Jesus Christ, words in red. Does that work? Moon, not give her light. There's a gender-specific thing to the light of a moon. Jesus knew about it. All the ancients knew about it. Moonlight is cold. You go under the shade of a tree in the middle at midnight. It's warmer under there than it is out in moonlight. Go on YouTube. Guys have got thermal sensors, and they prove this. The take-home messages, there's guys heavy into Burning Man and stuff. They want to contact spirits by making massive crop circles. United Nations, here it is. United Nation logo has something going on there with the astrolabe. Also, when you walk around town, look at the design language now that you've learned a little bit about an astrolabe. Now, we don't want to say there's an occult or Masonic ritual everywhere you look, but you got to ask yourself some questions on some of these things when they all point the same way. All right, also, the astrolabe in the Bible, there's no real conflicts here. I wish we had more time, but we don't. We can just do so much. There's a few Bible verses, and there's a lot of Bible verses. The trouble is, you try to take a ball earth like this and call it a spherical obloid and make it work with an astrolabe. No. or a death cult like this on the right doesn't work. What does work, and I'll have to be the first to admit it, is the Islamic Mohammedan versions of these astrolabes, the complexities and the understanding of the heavens and what's going on there. I don't see that coming out of the universities in the United States of America or Canada. So anyway, we're getting ready to quit here. And also this guy, he knows about it. At 40 years making them, he can't master it, so you shouldn't feel too bad either. Take care. God bless all you. Thanks for stopping by. If you get a chance, read your Bible or get an Astrolabe app or order a paper one and work on some things. Take care. Peace to you and Lord be with you. Bye for now.
Did you hear that bleep?
Right,
Right, it's recording from now, okay?
go.
Alright. I've had a request from this guy called Geist View. And I'm going to read to you what he says. And then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions because you know the answers that I don't know. And if you could just answer them honestly, then I can go back to the Geist View guy and say, right, I don't know, but I've asked these questions. These are the answers. Okay, so he says, I said, Geist View, as far as I can tell, a sextant works on both models. So he's responded and said, then you should be able to tell me how, right? So can you just tell this guy how they work on both models? A nautical sextant?
Right. When they take a sighting from a star, all right, all the navigator knows is that the star will be at a certain angle from a certain point on the Earth, and then plots his course. All right. The angles all calculated are based on a plane surface, plane, plane surface.
Right.
All right. And the navigators are told it works. We know you live on a ball, but the angles for a plane surface will get you from A to B. All right. They're exactly the same. All a sextant does is tells you this body, this moon, the sun, these stars will be at this angle when you are at this position on the Earth.
So you know this because you've... Just tell me how you know this stuff, just so that Geist View can't turn around and say something like, who the hell's this guy? Just tell me a little bit about how you know this kind of stuff to be true.
Right. Right. I taught for the Duke of Edinburgh's awards scheme for a number of years, okay, and one of the things we taught was map reading, okay. I also sailed years ago, all right, so I've done some naval navigation.
Okay.
I know how to read a sextant, all right. I understand the maths that goes into a sextant, and I also understand how we navigate by the stars.
What was the thing that you said that you also know how to use
Planisphere.
Just just elaborate on that.
A planisphere is a flat map of a spherical surface. Okay, but in the same way that the flat circular map of the world is being wrapped around a ball, that's exactly what they've done with the skies. So all a planisphere does is takes what people think is the celestial sphere and put it back on a flat map, right? And it works. Okay, it shows how the heavens rotate, it shows how the sun rotates, how the moon rotates, and it tells you what will be where and when it will be there.
I said to him that I've not found any reason why it cannot work on a flat as opposed to a plane,
Yeah.
as it seems to work on both.
Okay.
And then he said, I didn't ask how it didn't work. I asked how it did work on a ball.
How it works on a ball.
Well, how he asked how. He's emphasised the word how.
Because all they've done is they've wrapped the map round a ball.
So basically, it's backwards engineering it from back to what it used to be.
No, because it never was a ball. Right? They've taken the ground, they've taken the sky. The sky could well be flat, I've not this dome thing. I think is a bit of a. I think we missed a beat on that.
I think the sky looks flat to me.
Yeah, and there's no reason why the sky shouldn't be flat.
Okay, so the next thing that he says is I said the sextant works because of the mapping of the stars, and he said wrong. Let me know when I can do star readings in the daytime.
You can't use the sun during the daytime.
Okay, I said not because of the shape of the Earth, and he just said wrong again. So then I said I must be missing something because the sextant works on both models, and he said wrong. Kind of hard to do when you need two poles and two pole stars, i.e. Sigma Octantis and Polaris. Not only that little problem, you also need two hemispheres, and just to rub it in requires the sun's angular size to never change size, and that's just a start, but do continue. Is he right?
No, he's not, because we don't live on a ball, so there are not two hemispheres to start with.
But why does he think that there is? Why does he think that there needs to be?
Because he thinks he lives on a ball.
Okay, so
That's the short answer.
I've said that I may be missing something, and I have no issue in admitting that it's not something I've ever considered until you asked. So you might want to point out why the mechanics do not work on a plane, as it does seem to work on both. And then his answer was, does the longitude and latitude lines on the flat Earth converge at a central point in the southern hemisphere? No. Then you have a problem.
There you go. Longitude and latitude are based on astronomical observations. That's where we've got the whole longitude and latitude grid from. Okay? And they're all just angular constructions. Okay? So that when they're out in the ocean, they could navigate, because there's no points of reference. Okay, you don't go out when you go out and follow a map. You don't point the compass and walk in the direction of the compass. You take a sighting, you find something the compass is pointing to, and you walk to that point. All right, and you can't do that on the oceans. So what they have to do on the oceans is they have to use the sun, the moon, and the stars. Okay, that they were points that they could focus on. But the problem with the stars is they're all constantly moving, as are the sun and the moon. All right? So it makes the calculations are quite complicated, but they do work. They will tell people exactly where they are on the surface. All right?
So it's
and
not.
It's nothing more than a reference system.
So why does he think it's a problem if the latitudes and the longitudes converge at a central point in the northern hemisphere, but not in the south? Why does he think that's a problem?
Short answer, I have no idea. Yes, the star maps. Get a planisphere, all right, and you will see that the sky has got longitude and latitude lines just the same as on the Earth below.
So then, if it makes sense,
and they converge at the North Pole, they converge at Polaris, and they work perfectly. The sky rotates. The sky rotates like a disc above the Earth.
So basically, he's got a misconception. Is that right?
Yeah, you can do exactly the same things with the stars on a sphere as you can with the stars on a flat surface. The only difference between the two is there a single point for the South Pole? All right? Antarctica is locked down. We're not going to go there and find out, okay? For the stars, their trump card is Sigma Octantis, which is nonsense, all right? There is no South Pole star.
I agree with that.
Octantis is the constellation, all right, and it's a 3-star constellation that is claimed to rotate around the south celestial pole, all right, but nobody's seen it.
To be honest with you, my own personal view, I think the most likely consequence, or the most likelihood, is that the stars in the southern skies appear to be the North Star of a world below us. Because I don't believe that we are doing what they tell us we are doing, and the only other explanation for the stars in the south is that it's the North Star of a southern world that we're not meant to know is there. Moving on, there's only 2 more questions. In capital letters, this is probably his biggest point. This is what he's put. Explain how a sextant works on a flat Earth, especially in the model where the sun's angular size changes throughout the day. That's all in capitals, so he obviously wants to focus on that particular bit.
Right, you don't take a sun sighting based on its angular size. All right, you take a sun sighting based on its lower limb, which is the lower edge.
So
the angular size has got nothing to do with it.
So that's the answer done. Can we move on, or is it more complicated than that?
No, it's as simple as that.
And then he's put his last one is, you've conveniently left out how on a flat Earth where the sun's angular size changes throughout the day. All you said is that it does. So basically, it's got nothing to do with the angular size.
No.
And then he's put, I'll let you try again. Okay, so Geist view, I've tried again. I have admitted that I didn't know the answer, and I've gone to somebody that does know the answer, or certainly more than I do. So at least, if you disagree with me, at least I've gone and done what you asked me to do. I've explained to you how it works on a flat Earth model, or I've used it through agents, somebody else has explained it to you. And if you don't accept that, at least debunk what I've just given you, because I don't know the answer. You've asked me to do something, I've now gone and done it, I've got your answers. Let's see what you say about it. Don't get me a text heavy response, do a video response in reply so I can take it in, because I'm a thick flat earther. Do a reasonable video in response like I've done for you, and then we'll see where we end up. But it appears from all angles that I can see that a nautical sextant works on both models equally, because it's got nothing to do with the angular size of the sun, it's to do with the position of the sun at the bottom of the sun throughout the day. That's it. So it seems to work both ways. It appears that you've got a misunderstanding about a nautical sextant based on whatever you've learnt, and if I've got it wrong, tell me. If I'm misunderstanding, tell me. Don't do it in text, do it in a video, because everybody that does anything in text is a footnote. We want it in video format so we can see how credible you are. Capiche?
Flat Earth Proof 27. Circumnavigation. The Earth isn't flat. Don't you know anything? Haven't you heard of circumnavigation? Well, yes. But every circumnavigator has traveled in an eastward or westward direction. Find one that has broken the north-south barrier, and then we can talk. Because just as the sun travels east to west every day, those circumnavigators are simply making this kind of circle around the flat plane. But nobody will ever be able to go south, past the Antarctic ice wall, continuing on past the alleged South Pole, to come up under the other side of Antarctica and back up northwardly bound, because that's simply not the kind of world we live on. And if it indeed were, they would have surely long since had someone accomplished this feat by now. But obviously, they can't. So investigate the subject for yourself and ask questions.
Ein Popstop-Hit von einer deutschen Band.
Kraftwerk und das Model.